Welcome to the Teapot Reads. My name's Sam. I'm the Teapot. This is the manga I'm currently reading, and I'm so happy to see you today. Hello and welcome. Welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if this is your first time here. Please do your best to tune out the fan in the background. It is either the fan in the background or other, even more annoying noises the fan is covering up. So this is my sort of attempt to mask other sounds happening. I think you should be able to hear me fine because I did a little test and I could hear me fine. So we're hoping I didn't miscalculate. It is time for my autumnal manga reading wrap-up. I do wrap-ups seasonally because I am not a particularly quick reader, and even though last season I read a lot of manga, this season I did not. There's a couple reasons for that. We're going to talk about it because it has to do with the manga I was reading, which was not thrilling me. Some of them were. Actually, that's not even fair. It's really just one of them dragged it down, and I just could not really get back into the vibes of it after this. But what am I reading right now? I am reading Free Run Beyond Journey's End, Volume 6. I absolutely love this series. I really wanted to have finished it by the time I did this wrap-up, but it did not happen. Like I said, getting sort of like immersing myself in manga has been a little bit of a struggle. Free Run Beyond Journey's End is a series about Free Run, who was part of this great party of heroes, and they defeated this evil character, and then because she's an elf, she far outlives all of her companions, and now it sort of has a second chance to kind of get to know humans, and she's traveling with Fern and Stark, and Stark's not on this cover. Poor Stark, I don't think he's been in the book at all yet, or this volume at least, and she's traveling with two human companions and kind of getting to know what it's like to be human and like make bonds and make friends, and reflecting on her life with her original party, and they've also got this other quest going on. It's really good. If you've been watching the channel for a bit, you know I did not love Volume 1. I actually hated Volume 1, but Volume 2 forward, it's become one of my favorite manga series, and I'm always really excited to get it. And this one actually came late at my store. I had it, pre-ordered and everything and ready, but we didn't get stock of it until like 2 weeks after it like published. So that was a little frustrating, but I'm not like on top of my game, so So I only read 9 volumes of manga over the course of the last 3 months, and that's sort of pitiable because that's 3 volumes a month, and I know I can read more manga than that, and I know there are a lot of series I want to read, but because of these hiccups I was having, I've lost a lot of that luster that I had for reading manga, and I'm hoping into the new season I will kind of regain it. So the first problem that really was dealing with it is I have a really long commute to work now, and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So next week when I post my reading wrap up for the season, you're going to see that I have so many books that I finished reading because of audiobooks. But you can't really listen to an audiobook of manga, and even getting in like 15 minutes a day just to read one chapter of it was really difficult for me. It's something I am hoping to work on in the next couple months. I've got to just really find a time, I think, that it works well for, or I've got to set aside like a day, like this is the day I read manga and just read as much as I can that day. I don't 100% know how that's going to work, so that definitely was a hiccup. Now, a book that was not a hiccup that I absolutely loved and delighted, I'm sad it's the final volume, is Daily Report About My Witch Senpai Volume 2. In the last wrap-up, I talked about reading Volume 1. Absolutely love Volume 1. I love Volume 2 as well. This is super cute. The art is cute throughout. Let's see. It's so cute. It's a little bit slice of life. It's a little bit Kiki's Delivery Service. It is about Shizuka. She's a witch. She's an office worker. She's a witch. And witches, it's like mostly our world. There are just like some witches out there. And then Misono, and he's an office worker and he's a crush on her. And it's about like their budding relationship, and it's just so sweet and cute, and I really like them as a couple, and I really like them as individuals, and I'm sad that these were such short volumes of manga and that it's over now. I think that in Japan it was continued after this initial run, but that hasn't made it translated to English yet, which is a shame. And this is written by Maka Mochida. Really, really, really recommend this if you're looking for something cute and whimsical and you want that Kiki's Delivery Service cozy fantasy vibe. Our second hiccup that we run into is this book was not exciting. Every time I like tuned into this book to like read a chapter, was not excited. Every time I thought about reading manga, I was like, oh, I'm still in that thing. I have volume 3 in this series, and I will probably read it, give that its final try, but after volume 3, if I don't like it, I'm going to unhaul it, which is a shame because I did really enjoy volume 1. And that is Sakamoto Days volume 2. I love the concept of this, and I actually really like the art of it as well. Basically, Mr. Sakamoto was one of the greatest assassins of all time, but he has since retired, and he has a family, and he owns a little corner shop, and the characters' names are Shin, that's Shin, and Lou. Anyway, Shin and Lou he was an assassin that worked with Mr. Sakamoto, and she is an ex-member of the Triad, and so they're like these badass characters set in a sort of slice of life environment, but they are dealing with an overarching plot, which is that someone wants to kill Mr. Sakamoto, or like there's been like a hit taken out on him or something. This one takes place a lot at a theme park. I just really wasn't taken with this. I didn't think the plot was interesting. I don't know why. Because like I was just like bored by it. I don't really like the characters. I find myself not really attached to any of them. They're all just like there, I guess. Even though I like the art, I don't like it enough to continue just like submitting my eyes to it, you know, when there's nothing else holding on. And I also am getting really tired of this sort of fat joke thing going on the entire time with Mr. Sakamoto. It's not funny. It rubs me wrong every time I come across it. Really? Like, we're still doing that? And I also just, I don't know. I find it really easy to find things not to like about it because I was so bored and so just like frustrated with this whole volume, and it turned me off of reading manga for a while afterwards. It took me a while to get like back on my feet. It took me one of my favorite series to get me back on my feet, and even that didn't like fully fix it. So next I read Spy Family Volume 8. Frankie's on the cover. Very exciting. I love this series. I love that Yor finally has like a really prominent role to play, and I loved Anya and Lloyd's antics in this. Thought it was hilarious, especially the scene where he's trying to like dress in all the like touristy clothes. I was absolutely dying. I read this at work for the most part because I wanted it to be my top priority to try to kickstart me into reading manga again, and it was just delightful and hilarious and fantastic, and this series continues to be amazing. I was a little let down by volume 7, if you remember I think it was my last wrap up, but this one definitely brings all those great, wonderful feelings back into it. Fantastic. If you're not reading Spy Family, that surprises me, but it is really good. And if you're someone who doesn't read a lot of manga, and I would really recommend Spy Family as a really great manga to kind of go with, even if it's not your main reading habit. So yeah, really, really loved this. And it got me a little bit back into manga, but I really haven't recovered after finishing Sakamoto Volume 2. And I will try Volume 3 at some point, probably not next season, but hopefully by the end of next year, and I'll decide based on that whether I want to unhaul it. Then I read another favorite series. I think actually the rest of these that I'm going to show you are series I really like. I don't have bad things to say necessarily, but then we have volume 16 of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. I love this series. It's one of my favorites. This is the manga that got me back into reading manga, and I absolutely love it for that reason. I'm not really sure where the plot's going at this point. I really liked certain plot elements that were I didn't realize they were wrapping up in the last volume, but they wrapped up in the last volume. And this new sort of arc, I'm just not vibing with as much. That's not to say I don't still enjoy it, and I did really like how much page time Ku got in this one, but it's not my favorite volume overall. I do have a theory about Hanako that I can't share because if I'm right, it's kind of a big spoiler, but it hit me when I was reading this volume. I was like, oh, I don't know when the next volume of this comes out, which kind of concerns me. I really wish I knew how much was left of this series, because if it continues the way it's continuing and ends on the note I'm worried it might end on, I think it would actually ruin a lot of the experience. But we're not going to dwell on that. We're just going to dwell on the fact that I am still enjoying it. I'm really happy to have volume 16 here with me. And I also love, I don't know if you can see the little like that art. Will it focus? It won't, but it's cute. So then we have a series that I've been saying I was going to read for ages, and I finally started reading it, and I absolutely love it. It is giving me Kiki's Delivery Service and like Ghibli vibes. It's giving me cozy, whimsical, middle grade book vibes. It is fulfilling like a childhood desires and wants and loves, and also bringing me something new and exciting. And anyway, I will definitely be continuing this series into the next season and basically reading this as quickly as I can. Of all the manga I read this season, these were the only volumes that I consistently was excited to return to. And that is Witch Hat Atelier volumes 1 and 2. These are by Komome Shirahama, and the art throughout is as gorgeous as the art on these covers, even more so, I would say. And here are the back covers, because I think they deserve it. And it's also fairly dark. I've been trying to get so many people I know who don't read manga to read this series in particular, because I think it has, again, really great crossover potential and appeal. This is such a cool fantasy. Basically, we have Coco. She really wants to be a witch or a magician, I think they're called. No, they're called witches. She really wants to be a witch. Tank has burrowed himself under a blanket and is like making a tent. It's adorable from this angle. Coco really wants to be a witch, and when a witch visits her village, she spies on him and watches him perform his magic. But she's not a witch, right? She's just a regular person, and she wishes she could do magic. When she was really little, she was given this spell book and this magic wand, and, you know, after spying on him and figuring out a little bit about magic, she decides to try some magic with that spell book and wand, and something bad happens. He ends up taking her into his atelier and training her to become a witch, and because she kind of dabbled with this black magic, basically there's a lot of tension there. Not with her teacher, whose name I'm totally blanking. I'm really bad with names, if you haven't gathered that already. Kifrey, or Quifrey? I've been calling him Kifrey. So Master Kifrey takes her into his atelier as one of her students, and yeah, that's kind of where all the tension starts, and it's so good. Absolutely adore every single one of these characters. I cannot wait to see where the plot brings us, because there's still a lot like we as the readers do not quite know. We know like sort of where the lines are drawn, but we don't know why or who or how or why Coco specifically. I mean, the art, you can't really talk about the series without the gorgeous art, but I love how so much of the world building is done through these like arcane kind of pages. Let me see if I can find one, because it's not every chapter, but it's quite a few of them. And there's a lot of showing, not telling, like, because the art is so intense and gorgeous, you don't need to hear everything like or see it written out. You just need, okay, I'm not finding any of them. I know there were some. You just kind of need to really pay attention to the pages. Here we go. So like this is sort of like, it explains the world, but it's also part of Coco's lessons, and it's just like gorgeous. Like it looks like it was pulled out of some sort of like grimoire. So yes, absolutely loving Witch Hat Atelier. So sad it took me this long to get to it, but now I have a lot to catch up on, and I'm really excited, and it's quite possible in my next wrap up you'll see almost exclusively like Witch Hat Atelier volumes, because it's one of the few things keeping me really, really excited to read right now. And then the last things I read were actually rereads, and that was continuing my Noragami reread. I reread volumes 4, 5, and 6. It was by Adachi Toka. This is my favorite manga of all time, which is why I'm rereading it, so that I can catch up, because I kind of let it get away from me. And even though I had a hard time with manga, and sometimes even had a hard time picking up these volumes, I did still really enjoy them. They actually surpassed a little bit of the hype of what I remembered from them. There are some scenes that I did not remember loving as much as I did the first time, and I just am completely rekindled with my absolute adoration for the series. So yes, next season I will be continuing on rereading, so it'll be 7, 8, and 9 will be the next volumes I reread. This series is about Hiyori, who is not on any of these covers. Neither is Yato, but it is about Hiyori. She is a human. She sees someone crossing the road, sees they're about to be hit by a truck, and decides to save them. Turns out it is not just a regular person, it is Yato. He is a stray god. In saving his life, she ends up sort of having her soul like fall out of her body sometimes, and so she asks Yato to fix her, and they just kind of get entwined and have adventures. There is also Yukine, who is Yato's Shinki, which is a magical weapon, and the first arc really deals with Yato having to kind of get Yukine to be like a good ghost. not succumb. And this arc really focuses on Bishman, who is one of my favorite characters, but also focuses on Kazuma, who is possibly my favorite side character. It's a toss-up between Kazuma and Ebisu. I adore them both. As for what I am going to read next season, so like I said, I will be continuing my Noragami reread. I will definitely be picking up more Witch Hat Atelier. I would also like to pick up more Way of the House Husband. I've sort of let that get away from me. I just keep forgetting what volume I'm on, so I need to like write it down when I go to the bookstore so that I pick up the correct volume, because I'm like afraid I'm going to pick up a volume I've already read, or like skip a volume I didn't realize I didn't have. So I need to do that. I don't think there's another volume of Spy Family or Toilet Bond Hanako-kun coming out in the next season, but I do think there's another free run, so I'll be reading that as well, because I'm still loving that series. And like I said, I might read volume 3 of Sakamoto Days, but it is not high on my priority list. I would also like to return to Jujutsu Kaisen and pick up volume 2. But as for things on my physical TBR, I was really planning to do this season, but again, just because I couldn't get into it. But I would like to read Chainsaw Man Volume 1 and kind of see what the hype is all about and see if I like it. So that's a priority. And then this is road bump number 3, and the reason I really struggled with picking up manga. So I was gifted a manga that I had been avoiding on purpose because I find the art incredibly disturbing, and it doesn't appeal to me in pretty much any way, but it was gifted to me by someone I care a lot about and who said it was one of their favorite manga of all time. Actually, it might even be their favorite manga of all time. So I would like to read it, and you know, partly as like a thank you for gifting me this thing that you love, and also as a like, let's talk about it, you love it, I'd like to see what you love. Knowing it's on my TBR and seeing at the top of my manga piles has really just, every time I look over at the piles, thrown sort of a wrench in my desire to pick something up, because I know I can't keep putting this off. So I would like to get to it as quickly as possible, just so I can kind of get it over with, and hopefully I enjoy it a lot. But the art really does disturb me on a really visceral level. And that is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I have avoided Junji Ito on purpose. I'm not a big fan of horror. I can do sort of soft, cozy horror, by which I mean something like House of Salt and Sorrow by Aaron Craig. But horror and me do not get along at all. It is very, very difficult. So I don't know how I'm going to handle Uzumaki. I think this is less gory than some of his other stuff, so I am really grateful about that. But every time I look and see my manga and see this sitting at top, and I'm just like, well, okay, I will get to you. So yeah, hopefully I read this. If I like it, I'll keep it. If I don't like it, I'm probably gonna unhaul this pretty quickly, but I would like to read it, and I would like to read it before Christmas. I don't really want to look. I think to kind of combat my distaste of it, I'm going to like have to treat myself while I'm reading it. So maybe like buy fruit snacks or something and eat fruit snacks while I'm reading it. There are 19 chapters plus something called the Lost chapter. So it's gonna take me like a month to read this thing. Hopefully, I'm really hoping I like it and that the art does not disgust me. But this was roadblock number 3, and the reason I've just had such a hard time picking up manga this season. That is it for me today. So thank you for watching. If you like this content and you want to see more, definitely subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you already subscribed and you watched this the whole way through, thank you so much. It means the world to me to have you here, to have you listening and watching. Thank you. If you are somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. If you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. Most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye.